All right, welcome to our Sunday night team call, everybody. I am so glad that you could join. I have kind of a sore throat and like the plague basically the last few days, so it's cooperating right now, but it might just give out and then I'll use sign language. First up, before we like really get started, we just wanted to call out a couple of quick, just like 10-second celebrations, and if anybody else on the call has one, go ahead and throw it in. So I will start just because I have one top of mind, and I know he is not on the call right now, but we'll probably catch the recording. I just wanted to celebrate Callan. He is one of our newest team members, and he started in with his products this week and is loving it, doing well, and has already started sharing with people and following up. So just a quick celebration of him for that.
Woohoo! Nice work.
Anyone else have a quick?
So I am getting myself situated here. It's so weird because I want to look at this one. Okay, so, and I already kind of teed Mary up to share about this, but I really do want to acknowledge Mary. One thing that she is great at, and that I'm going to have her share more and more with us on future calls about, is she is bold and just no nonsense when she is approaching people specifically for the business. And she has just a really natural way of starting these conversations. Specifically one she shared with me this week that I asked her to kind of role play and like just give us the quick recap of what she said to this person, how the conversation went. It's not even an enrollment yet, but I just think it was really powerful the way you teed that up. So would you do us the honor of sharing a little bit more about that, Mary?
Oh, well, I love to talk. So I have a friend who I've known since high school who was in the Navy recently, out of the Navy, looking for other things to do, really big into wanting to help people. So he's been doing these like video like on YouTube, just having interviews with certain people. I was like within his first 5 as a business owner, he's gone above and beyond to find just the most interesting people to interview, just in ways to like getting people out there, I guess. So he's on like interview 20 now, which is cool, on his YouTube channel. He's been really consistent about it. So I reached out the other day and I said, hey, do you follow Chris Harder? And he goes, actually, yeah, I do. Why do you ask? And I was like, just had a thought. Do you have time to jump on a phone call with me today, tomorrow? So we ended up chatting, and I said, I was inquiring about Chris Harder because you remind me a lot of him. He has a podcast, all these conversations with all these people, and the way that he's been able to really exploit what he loves to do is by using Isagenix as a vehicle. He and his wife, Lori, got started about 8 years ago. They obviously reached the top of the top within this company, but they've used Isagenix as a vehicle to go on and do what they love. And he's been talking to me about how much he loves doing these little podcasts, these little video calls, and that's really what he wants to get paid to do in the future. So I think it's really cool to just approach it in a no bullshit type of way and be very black and white about it, because people, I feel like, in my experience, don't like it when you beat around the bush. What they do really like is when you approach them thinking about their finances. So people really light up when you're like, I have a way for you to make money. And they're like, what? You're thinking about ways that I could make money? And it's like, I think it instantly opens up the conversation and opens up that person's mindset to hear you a little bit more. And he flat out told me no. He said, no, for now, I'm really busy. I just got a new job, yada, yada. And I go, what? Honestly, I wasn't even expecting you to say yes to like the products today. I wasn't expecting you to say yes to anything. I honestly just wanted to plant the seed and maybe have you look into what network marketing could do for you, as far as what you just told me about wanting to have these conversations be something you do on a daily basis for a living. So it was cool because I piqued his interest, and now I'm just dripping stuff. Like I sent him, I told Lindsay about this, and she goes, send him, there's an awesome little segment from ICU 2014 where Chris Harder goes into how he was in banking, how he didn't have any belief in the product or the system or network marketing as a whole. He went from a 0 to a 10, changed his life. We all know the rest of the story. So I've sent a couple little snippets like that now in the last couple of days, just to keep it fresh, just to keep it top of mind for him and give him that. I know, Jen, you tagged me in something about FOMO and like just presenting it as an opportunity to take that more and more people are trying to take. So I introduced him a little bit to the START group, so he knew it wasn't like just for our parents' network marketing anymore. So it was cool to hear his reaction. And even though he said no, I feel like in the future it will be somebody that I can really build a team with if he opens up his mind to it.
That is awesome. I just want to highlight that is a success. Do you see how
totally.
Lindsay saw that as a success? Mary saw that as a success. A really, I hope this doesn't sound blunt, but a really amateur mindset would be to see that no as a failure or as a reason to stop or a reason to quit. That was a massive success that Mary was bold and she put it out there. And the other thing that is really key there is that she knew to reach out to Lindsay, who is directly partnering up with her, in this phase of her business, to say like, hey, what might be a good way to follow up? And Lindsay, because she has been in the company a little longer, was able to say, hey, in 2014, I saw this talk that I think would be perfect, right? And so that's the value of being really humble and collaborative in this business, is because nobody's going to know everything or see everything, right?
Well, and the best part of that story is he actually reached out to Chris Harder to ask him to be on his YouTube channel, and Chris said yes. So my friend's name is Chris. So I said, Chris, when you get Chris on, I said, tell him that a friend of yours is trying to get you involved in network marketing and ask what he thinks.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. And this is so perfect. So this segues right into our topic for tonight, is really what we want to talk about is asking the right questions, and how if we have the right mindset and we have a few kind of verbiage or language hacks around how we ask questions, it makes all the difference in how we can connect with people and transition the conversation to Isagenix. So first and foremost, our mindset is to serve and to solve the problem. And Mary is a true entrepreneur, both in the brick and mortar sense and now in the network marketing sense as well, because she is out to solve people's problems. So she took that skill and she transferred it. So whether you are approaching Isagenix with the mindset of being an entrepreneur or creating a business or creating a significant income, that's awesome. You're going to serve and you're going to solve problems. Or if you are simply saying, I love these products and I want to help people, and it'd be cool if I got them, for free, that's great too. The same mindset around serving and solving problems is going to really be just appropriate for you as well. So you don't have to be going all in and calling yourself an entrepreneur for everything here to apply around the mindset. So we want to talk about asking the right questions. So in business and in sales, and also just in being a good person and having good relationships, our goal is to listen and to not be the one talking the whole time. So I, as you can imagine, struggle with this and have a massive learning curve around it, right? If anybody else feels that way, sometimes they might be doing too much talking, but that's okay. We get to iterate, we get to learn, and we get to get better at it. But our goal when we are talking to people and when we are connecting is to actually not be doing the talking, but to actually be doing the listening. And this is huge. This is a skill. It's actually not that easy to really listen. You can become very good at it and it can become easier, but on the onset, it's a skill you're going to have to practice. So you really, the goal is to really, really listen to people. And to listen means they have to be talking, and that typically means we have to ask the right questions to get them talking. So really what we're going to talk about here, we have two different kind of language hacks around how we can get people talking so that we can listen, so we can gather information, so we can assess whether or not Isagenix might be the right fit for them. Because the reality is a lot of people that you talk to, Isagenix isn't the right fit for them right then. And that's okay. It's not going to be for everyone at this point. Maybe later it will be, but right now it's not always a yes for everyone. And so we want to have good conversations where we get people talking so we can assess whether it's even appropriate to make a bridge in the conversation at some point to Isagenix. Because sometimes, quite frankly, it just isn't. It's not a fit in that conversation. And that's when it gets icky, is when we force it. Like, well, I've got this agenda that I'm talking to you because we're going to find a way to get this conversation to Isagenix today, which is, it creates ickiness for you and for them because they can feel it. So that's not the goal. The goal is to connect, to ask questions, to listen actively, and not let your own stories or your fear get in the way, but truly assess whether or not their Isagenix would be of value to them. So One other point I'm going to make, and then I'll talk about one technique called past, present, future, and then Lindsay is going to talk about another called permission-based questions, and if I would you. So those are some language hacks we're going to show you. But one other thing I would say is that if you take the time to practice and get really good at listening, your time spent working on Isagenix can be spent primarily on following up and enrolling, which is awesome because enrollments means your team is growing, right? And that your income is growing and that more people's lives are being blessed. So if you get really good at listening, you can use your everyday life, the activities you are already engaging in, as a way to connect and listen to people. And then you can bridge that over into maybe you have just 20 minutes a day, an hour a day, 5 hours a week, whatever it is that you can time block for working your Isagenix business. That time can be spent with following up, presenting, and rolling. It doesn't have to be spent like, oh, now's my hour to work on Isagenix for the week. How am I going to connect? How can I force this? If we can get good at using our activities in the day-to-day to connect, that becomes so much easier. So just a quick example of that. If we are just observing things, a good example of something that happened for me is I was in the break room at work and there was a girl, it was 2 p.m. and she was warming up oatmeal in the microwave. And so I just looked at her and I said, hey, is that your breakfast now at 2 p.m.? And she said, oh my gosh, I've been so busy today. I had no time to eat. And I said, does that happen often? She said, oh, I never have time for breakfast. That was obviously a clear bridge into how I could say, hey, 30-second story about how I used to be a meal skipper to I found a convenient solution. Could I share some more? So anyways, that's just an example of observing and using our day-to-day lives to look for opportunities. Okay, so we're going to show you 2 techniques here. First one's called past, present, future. I want to tell you action equals results. So you're going to hear 2 different techniques, maybe 2 to 3. I want you to think about as you're hearing these, what you would commit to practicing immediately this week. Pick something you hear Lindsay or I share, a turn of phrase, a little word hack, whatever it is that you say coming out of this call. And if you're willing, even at the end, to say, I commit to practicing this, we'd love to hear it. That you say immediately this week, I will practice this. I will use this technique, this language. Because if you do not take action, you will not get results. And we are handing you the action that you can take this week. Okay, so first off, in either of these techniques that we are going to share with you, or strategies or kind of language hacks, first and foremost, when you're talking to people, you've got to build rapport. And that's honestly a whole nother training that we can do if that's of interest to people, on how to build rapport. There's all sorts of different techniques, but the reality is you're not just going to all of a sudden just like word vomit a really catchy phrase on someone. Like you can just walk up and be like, hey, if I would you, it's not going to really like fall really well, I don't think. So always you're looking to build rapport, and that doesn't mean that you make small talk for an hour before you get to any type of part of the conversation where you could be, actively listening for maybe whether or not Isagenix could be a solution. It just means very quickly establishing some kind of common ground. You went to the same school, you like the same flavor of ice cream, you're from the same place, you both had an hour-long commute this morning, whatever. You're asking questions around where they're from, their family, their occupation, what they like to do to establish some little piece of common ground. And again, we can train more on that in the future. So once you do that, a technique that I have found really powerful, and I know there's lots of different things you can do, but this one I was able to pick up and run with and has made a huge difference for me when really trying to talk to people about the business specifically. So this is called past, present, future. So essentially, I'm going to use the example of a waitress here, just because waitresses and Lyft or Uber drivers is where I have been most successful in using this technique, but it could be used in any number of settings. So in the example of a waitress, so let's say our waitress is at the table. First thing I'm going to do is pay a compliment. And now this is where getting really clear about who you want to do business with is important, because if somebody is really probably not doing that great a job as your waitress and they're in a bad mood and they're sour and they're using off-color language and you're really like not jiving with them, or they're hardly at your table, like you're probably not going to be like, hey, fantastic service, you're dynamic at what you do. Like if you feel that way, great, say it, but pay an authentic compliment to that person. So like, wow, you are really good at what you do. You're really like on the ball, like really dynamic with this. And then this is where the past, present, future part is. So past, the first question is going to be, as it pertains to their occupation, is going to be, so how long have you been doing this for? How long have you been a waitress for? How long have you been serving tables? So this is kind of a past question. So they're going to answer, maybe they're going to say, oh, I've been serving tables for about 5 years. So the present part of it is going to be 5 years. Wow, you must really like it, or you must really love it. So that's the present question. So what that's going to open up for that person, now this is where it can go one of two ways. And most likely, I was a server for a number of years, so I'm going to say most servers are going to say, oh, well, it pays the bills, or, well, I have to do it, or this is my second job, because I need extra money for whatever. Some are going to say, I love it. I absolutely love it, but not a ton, just in my experience serving. So what you're looking for, if somebody says, oh, I really love it, I love serving, this is probably starting to be a cue that you presenting like, hey, here's another opportunity, may or may not be a fit for them. But we're going to go down the path of if you say, so how long have you been doing this for? How long have you been serving tables? Oh, about 5 years. That's the past. The present is 5 years. Wow, you must really love it. And then they say, well, I don't love it, but, it pays the bills, or it's something to do. That's where I'm going to go future with it. Then I'm going to say, can you see, and this depends on their age, so let's assume they're in their 20s, can you see yourself doing this for another 20 to 30 years? So that's the question that kind of, for me, took a little practice. I didn't always go right to that, and sometimes I still kind of skip that piece because I got to keep practicing it. But you want to put it in their mind. If they're saying, I don't really love what I do, you want to really grab that and say, could you see yourself doing this for another 20 to 30 years? If they're older, you might say, could you see yourself doing this until retirement, or for the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever. From there, they might go, oh, well, I don't know. Or if they really don't like their job, they might say, hell no, I could never do this for another 20 to 30 years. But give them some space to answer that. What you want to get to is the question of, what would you rather be doing? And that question is powerful, because when we say, what would you rather be doing? That's evoking for them kind of like a little bit of daydream. So if they come to a job that they don't like, they're probably daydreaming about what they wish they could be doing, or thinking about it on the way in. Whether that's, I would rather be, I'd rather be outdoors. I hate doing a job indoors. I'd rather be outdoors. Or I'd rather be at home with my kids. I would rather be traveling the world. Whatever it is, you want to ask that question. And this is the future part of past, present, future. What would you rather be doing? And hold a little space for them to answer that. And once they answer that, they've essentially given you some information. You've been asking the right questions so that you can listen. And you can now really, from a place of service, be offering up that you have something that could be a solution to the problem they've just identified. They've been doing a job for X number of years that they don't even really like, and they'd rather be doing something else. It's kind of hard to have that conversation when I'm doing all the talking and I'm like, oh, you must really hate your job. I mean, you could never do this for the next 20 years. Wouldn't you rather be at home with your kids? Like, that could really come off as wrong. It might fall right, but it will likely not. If I can get them to say that to me, then it really gives me some information to be able to, from a place of posture and from a place of service, go to the part of the conversation where I'm going to transition to Isagenix. And I will just highlight one more time, if they are genuinely saying, I'm happy, I love my job, and you're having this conversation, don't try and all of a sudden be like, well, but what if you didn't like your job? Or, oh, I can't believe you actually like this job. I mean, don't throw something awkward in there. Like, you can celebrate them for loving their job and then move on, to either deciding if you want to be friends or have some kind of other relationship. But right now, they haven't presented you with a reason to really authentically say, like, I see your pain point, let me help offer a solution. So really stay true to what makes sense and actively listening and trying to serve and solve a problem. So from there, again, this kind of moves into what could be a whole nother training. But from there, when someone says, what would you rather be doing? You say, what would you rather be doing? They answer that. From there, this is where it takes practice, and where I will admit it sounds a little different every time I transition this part of the conversation. But Zach and Eden Slobin have a great training that I watched a number of times and I have really taken into practice. And the way that they transition it, and that I'm working towards really consistently transitioning the conversation to, is really from a strong place of posture. When someone says they'd rather be doing something else, what you can really say is, I have, excuse me.
I have the black.
Sorry, there's the throat. If you've paid them authentic compliment at the beginning, where you said, wow, you're really great at your job, you're really dynamic, you're really outgoing, a compliment of that sort, at this point you could say, when they say I'd rather be doing XYZ, you can say, you would be fantastic at what I do. I show, and then you can kind of leave a tiny space there, and then if they say, well, what do, you answer, or you can just kind of bridge right from, you would be fantastic at what I do. I show waitresses like you how to create a full-time income on a part-time basis so that they can, and if their rather be was stay home with their kids, so that they can stay home with their kids. So that's how you're kind of tailoring. And this is, I will completely acknowledge, it takes posture and belief to deliver a line like that. And that's where practice matters, right? I still, depending on the conversation, I'm just going to be completely honest here. I still sometimes waver a little and I don't deliver that line authentically. And then it kind of, I'm throwing all these extra words in. And sometimes it's just how it goes, but I'm committed to practicing it. And I feel I've gotten really good at the past, present, future part. And I'm still really working on how I can nail that language that really converts well to the next part of the conversation. But the good news is I still have created a ton of leads and even some enrollments from this technique without having nailed that end language. So that's past, present, future. From there, you would say like, the part about I can teach people, I show waitresses like you how to create a full-time income on a part-time basis so that they can, and then you insert there what they would have rather been doing. And then you kind of assess the conversation. They might say like, oh, I'd be really interested in that. Or there might just kind of be a little space where you would say, hey, they'll say, indicate some kind of interest level in that most likely, right? If you've delivered that with total posture. And that's where you would then go no further. You're not going to all of a sudden be like, so it's called Isagenix. The shakes are amazing. Here's the value pack. We're going to be best friends. Let's get married. You're not going to go there. What you are going to do is say, hey, especially if you're at a restaurant, because you probably can only take a couple minutes of their time there anyways, you're going to say, hey, now's not a great time to dive into it. I have to go whatever, or you're busy serving tables or whatever. But hey, are you on Facebook? Why don't you go ahead and add yourself and put your phone out? Right? Or you can say, are you on Instagram? Why don't you go ahead and add yourself, put your phone out so they can add themselves. And then you'll say, and then why don't you go ahead and text me your email address from my phone here, and we can set up a time to connect, or I can send you more information. We can chat on this. So the point there is that you want to, basically you're using past, present, future. And then from there, you're moving to a point, if you've assessed that you have something that could be a solution for them, you've assessed the interest, you're getting that contact information, and then you're ending the interaction and you're moving on and you're following up in 24 to 48 hours. So, and that was a lot of words really quickly. Does that make sense to people? Anybody excited about the idea of how that little turn of phrase could actually help you bridge some conversations without awkwardly trying to bring up Isagenix? Because I know I felt total relief when I learned that technique.
Yeah, we were talking about how explaining it in the terms of past, present, future, that was actually new to us, and we've been with Isagenix for 8 years. So we love that.
Yeah, so that technique has just changed the game in terms of business recruitment for me. People will say, it's so easy for me to share about the products. It's so hard to share about the business. That past, present, future line of questioning is really just about listening and serving. And the only thing you really have to learn is to have that posture at the end to say, well, you would be amazing at what I do. And then saying, I show waitresses like you. I show corporate salespeople like you. I show veterinarians like you. You tailor it to their circumstance, and then get to confidently asking, connect on social media, and then ask them to either put themselves in your contacts or to text you. And the last thing I'll say on that, if you go right to hey, just give me your phone number, we can talk on the phone, that can turn some people off. So there's some strategy big time to putting your phone out, letting them enter their contact information, letting them add themselves for you on Facebook. That takes down the defense a little bit. So that's the past, present, future piece. From there, just so we can deliver on both parts of what we said we were going to, I'm going to pass it over to Lindsay, and she's going to talk a little bit about permission-based questions. And it's kind of like a mindset. There's a few little language hacks to it, but it's more of a way of approaching conversations so that, again, you don't have people on their defenses.
That was our pizza being delivered for dinner because balance.
Thanks for the invite.
Mary, you can come over. It's still warm. There's also wings. Yes, so I love this conversation. Jen and I both, I'm like, okay, this is so weird. Jen and I both got really excited planning this one because questions are really such a powerful way to take the pressure off of yourself. When I was new, I remember always feeling like I had to have the perfect thing to say, when truthfully our job is not to give people information. It's to lead them through a conversation that has them come to a decision for themselves. And I'm going to tie this in a little bit with the book that we suggested everyone pick up and read or listen to, which is that Building a Story Brand. And if you haven't read it yet, no big deal. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version. What he talks about is the wrong way to position ourselves is that like we're the hero or Isagenix is the hero and we're going to like solve all their problems. No, what we want to do is paint the picture in every interaction we have with people that they are the hero in their own journey. That's how they see themselves. If their life was a movie, they see themselves as a main character. And how we want to position ourselves, this is key. Like literally get this and it will change the way you approach this entire business. You want to see yourself as the guide who's coming up alongside of them. So we're not like sitting across the table trying to present something. We're like sitting on the same side of the table going like, Elliot, like how could we look at this together and achieve your goals? Do you see how different that feels? Like that feels like, hey, I have your best interest. I really want to come up alongside you. I want to help ask you some questions that are going to lead you to making the decision for yourself versus I have to have some sales tactic that's going to have you say yes to me or I'm going to force you to make a decision. That is, I think, the new way to approach any type of sales or network marketing because it really puts the consumer in the driver's seat, which is how, I don't know about you all, but like for me, when I'm making a purchase, I love to buy things. I don't want to be sold. The minute I feel like someone's trying to sell me, I'm immediately defensive versus if I feel like I'm in the driver's seat. So I'm going to share a couple of word tracks, questions that are just my go-tos. And the point of all of this, for those of you watching the recording, for those of you on live, find what feels authentic for you and practice. Don't be afraid to practice some verbiage that maybe isn't comfortable right now and just try it on and see. But at the end of the day, you're going to find what works best for you. And we want you to shine through as the beautiful, authentic, amazing people that you are. So none of this is gospel. None of this is what you absolutely have to do. But see if any of this feels like, yeah, I could see myself doing that. So with that in mind, with us wanting to position ourselves as we're coming up alongside the person, the best thing you can do is just be armed with great questions. Jen gave some phenomenal examples. I think one that you'll hear a lot in just network marketing training, Eric Worre talks about it in the book GoPro, is the whole if I, fill in the blank, would you? If I sent you a video, would you be open to checking it out? So verbiage like that can fit in really well as you see that someone maybe their interest has been piqued or the conversation is definitely set up for you to offer at least some information about Isagenix. Kind of a little spin on that. My favorite questions, these are literally the two questions I tie into probably every conversation that I'm having that leads to Isagenix. First one is, would you be open? So it's kind of the same as like, if I would you, but I just want to get a feel for like, hey, would you be open? Are you open to considering other options? What I'm essentially saying is I'm not going to provide you with any Isagenix information unless you want to see it. So that one little question, asking if someone is open, takes it from feeling like sales to I'm giving them options that they get to choose from. So that's question number one. In whatever verbiage that fits into, your conversation, just always remember, I never want to provide information or facts about Isagenix, any details, unless I've asked for permission first. Really, that's kind of like the way to remember it. The second question that I love to ask is, hey, have you ever considered, do you hear how that verbiage really has it? It's like I'm like sitting here with Elliot, like, hey, dude, I know you want gains. I know you do. I see you working hard.
So bad.
Have you ever considered supplementing with a protein powder? Okay, cool. You already do. Hey, have you ever considered really looking at the ingredients and what's in your protein? Or have you ever considered, you could take that in so many different ways. Mary and I had a conversation on the way to a John Legend concert where I asked her, what's like your 5-year vision for your life, for your gym? And she said, I want to be running my business from my phone, which right then and there, it's like I'm a jerk if I don't say, but I remember just saying like, would you ever consider something like Isagenix?
She almost jumped out of her seat.
I played it cool, you have to admit. I really did. But again, what we always want to think about, and I guess you can share your experience in that, but that conversation between you and I, Mary, is what comes to mind, is my job at that point was just to be your friend, to be listening, and then be willing to say, hey, no idea if this would be a fit, but would you at least be open to a conversation to explore possibilities? And that question right there, I don't know, tell me, I would love to hear, like, for all of you who are just like listening, how does that make you feel? Like being on the receiving end of something like, hey, would you be open to exploring possibilities? Like, how does that feel to receive it? To be on the listening end of that kind of a question?
Respected for me.
Respected, yeah.
Like somebody cares about you as a person. So for me, it's kind of like bringing up the financial part of it. It's like you care about that person and they're automatically defenses down. They're ready to listen. And even if in my instance, I didn't take you up on the offer for another 5 or 6 months, like you dropped the information though. So it was there for me to take.
Yep. Ashley, Bruce, any thoughts about that? Or I just want to hear everyone's beautiful voices.
Sorry, we're using our stick, and I had to, like, my arm's not long enough.
Oh, the selfie stick?
Yeah, and for me, it really it feels comfortable, right? It's not something that's this sort of prefabricated, oh, I have to say exactly this right thing. It can come easily in conversation naturally. It's not something that would be too difficult to integrate. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
Can I share a story about that real quick?
Elliot would like to share a story about that real quick.
So this is just an example. Just yesterday, I had a friend call me and like I answered the phone. He goes, hey, I have a friend right here that I want you to talk about like prior work experience. See, do you have 5 minutes? And I'm like, I just felt violated that like he just called and handed the phone off, like no permission at all. And it's a little bit different, but it's similar in some ways. If he would have texted me like, hey, do you have 5 minutes for my friend? I would have it would have just felt better, just like that I wasn't getting blindsided. And I feel like that's, this is very similar.
Yeah.
In that way.
So the whole goal being, even if you look at the example Jen gave, which I'm obsessed with, I literally cannot wait to put that into practice. There's a permission aspect to it. So permission is kind of like the key little component you want to keep in your pocket, however that sounds for you. I still don't know where to look. It's so annoying. But then the other piece is, so let's say, like, let's use the conversation with Mary as an example. So we had that conversation and it wasn't like she enrolled in Isagenix that minute, but like I knew she agreed. She's like, yeah, you know what? I'd be open. And a great, I think I heard this from Zach Slobin. It does sound very Zach Slobin-y. A great way to kind of circle back with people is, and this isn't what I said to Mary, but I could have said something like this, like, hey, remember when we had that conversation in the car and you said you want to be running your business from your phone? Were you serious about that, or were you just kind of messing around? Like, it's a great way to like bring up, like, remember what you said? Like, remember these goals you mentioned? And then, it's like a great way to check in. If they're like, no, I don't think that's possible for me, or like wherever the conversation goes. For the most part, especially if you have built this rapport and you really are coming from a place of service, the person's gonna be like, no, it's still that, like, I still really think about that. And then to say something like, well, is this a good time? Is it the right time for you to like really look into Isagenix as an option? I'd love to have that conversation. Again, always thinking permission and how do I position myself on the same side of the table, looking at this problem or scenario the person has in their life and kind of like brainstorming with them at how could they see this differently, or what are the possibilities for them. So I think it's helpful to have sample language, but I think the mindset piece, and that's why we want to start all these conversations with mindset, is even more powerful, because when you're in the right mindset, your words will be the right words. That's kind of where Mary's success story from this week came from. She was in the right mindset. She saw total possibility for this guy. So she didn't need a script. She just came from a place of like, holy crap, like this could be powerful for you. Let's have this conversation. So that is what I wanted to touch on.
That's awesome. And I will note that the end piece that you said, that's definitely a sloganism with the, like curiously, when you mentioned blah, 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 running your business from your phone, how serious were you about that? But the gold in that is that it's tied right back to the why. It's not, hey, curious if Isagenix is right for you now. It's, tying it back to her goal, her why. And then I'm sure Lindsay would acknowledge, like, when you say something like that, you have to have posture around it, because otherwise, if she is serious about, wanting to run her business from her phone, whether or not she's going to want to trust you to show her how is going to be in your posture and your belief around what you have being a vehicle to do that. And that only comes with practice. And when you have the mindset and the posture, the exact words you use are only a slight edge. They're not like the total game changer. But at the beginning, and even now, sometimes in a conversation, I'll get a little lost and I'll know some certain things. I'll know that if I would you, being permission-based and past, present, future, those are the three things that I fall back on most often when I can sense or I can tell that this is a fit for them or could be a fit for them. And I just can't figure out how to transition the conversation properly. Because maybe they said it, they teed it up, I missed it, I got lost somehow, I realized I wasn't actually listening all that well, but I think I heard it. Like falling back on a couple of ways that you are comfortable, that you've practiced to transition a conversation is huge. So it's worth practicing. Practice on your significant other, practice on your cat, practice with real people. I will say we all, in my experience, when I had a team in like an employment setting, nobody loves to role play, but role play can be super helpful. And know that Ashley loves role playing. Bruce, you're so lucky.
I make my people play all the time. All the time. They hate me.
I love it.
It's so helpful. So this is the part of the call because we're already 10 minutes past. Our goal was to do these in 30 minutes, but to for sure not take more than 45. So what I want to hear now, I guess from anyone on the call, what is something that you heard that you are committed to putting into practice immediately? And if you want to take the cheat way, the easy way out, you can say, I'm committed to role playing it with Lindsay or with Jen or with Ashley or with whoever. But it's got to be something to take language you heard tonight, a strategy, a mindset hack you heard tonight, and put it into practice immediately. So I just want to hear who's going to try what this week. Mary?
I'll do the past, present, future thing all day long. I think that's awesome. I mean, I'll start tomorrow with the clients at my gym because that is the perfect people to practice on. Whether they want the product or not, I could still just, trap them in a role play sitch.
Awesome. And I would love to hear, I haven't used past, present, future a ton from a physical health perspective. We use it more from a financial health, but I know it can be powerful with physical health. So Mary, if you get into a conversation with someone at the gym and you get some real life experience doing past, present, future around like physical health goals, I would love for you to go live in the Best Life Biz Facebook group and just like share with us how you use that and how it works. Because I know I need to practice that twist on it big time.
Totally.
I really need to practice asking for permission because I feel like, all my prospects, the people that I've reached out to, I was talking to her, I've just verbal diarrhea everywhere and I need to stop.
We've all done it, my friend. We have all done it.
Oh my God. I went back through some messages that, been sending and I was like, did I really write all that? Like, what was I thinking? Like, stop. Like, stop. Yeah.
Pull-up story? Tell the pull-up story.
That I'll share too. It can be, am I muted? Just real quick, because Bruce, my man, have we been there? We've actually gone back after some time, especially if the person never answered, and we will say something like, wow, I actually just reread what I said to you, and can you tell I was new and just really excited? If you'd ever be open to like having a conversation, I promise not to throw up on you, or just like almost make fun at yourself. Like there's nothing you can't clean up in a follow-up message and just be like, yeah, that was kind of over the top, wasn't it?
It was a little much, yeah. So.
That's powerful. What Lindsay just said, that was so freeing for me. I circled back on a lot of conversations. Even like week 1, I vomited on everyone. Week 2, I used that hack from Lindsay. I went back and circled back with all of them. And at a minimum, at least cleared my conscience about how I had approached it in the first place. And not that it was wrong, but that I recognized that it probably to some people didn't feel so good to get that message, because they were like, whoa. So you can go back. It gives you like a clear to do for tomorrow, right? To go back on any message you feel like I didn't really do as good as I could have there because I got overly excited and I wasn't quite sure what to say. You can send a message like what Lindsay suggested.
Yep.
Megan, do we still have you on there? Do you want to share any takeaways, something you're willing to put into action immediately this week? Is she playing dead?
You might be mid-pump, so we'll
Okay, no, totally get it.
She can comment on the recording. So can everyone else.
Awesome.
Understandable.
All right, we are at 9:44, so we're going to end here. Thank you, everyone, for being on. I am pumped about what I learned from Lindsay's part of the training and from Mary sharing. That was amazing. So we're going to put this recording. Lindsay will put the recording in the group. Tag anyone that you can think of in the Best Life Biz group that you think might benefit from hearing this. Comment on it, what you took away and what you're pledging to do, because that'll help generate some conversation in the group for everyone. And then I will just note the Sunday Spotlight. I was like down for the count the last few days. So I'm going to try and do the first one tonight, but it might kick